Hello, Mourn. Fancy meeting you here. He waved the knife like a pointer. Mourn shook his head. Jesu, he'd probably been working on his delivery of that line for days. Mourn was taller, probably weighed about the same, and was at least 20 years older, and ranked higher, though there were never guarantees in a knife fight. Of a moment, despite the yogic breathing, he felt tired. "Annette, you sure you want to play it this way?" He nodded at the dagger. Technically, it was Mourn's choice. He was the challenged party. But if the man wanted to slice, it was all the same to him. "Unless you just want to, hand over your tag." Mourn smiled. At this level, nobody gave up their tag. He uncrowed the flap of the paddle holster tucked under the belt on his left side, a sheath of pebbled gray curl-nose leather. The case, custom designed by a grizzled old artist named Clements, was a nice piece of art in itself, made to look like a transponder case. Had to be disguised, since what was in it was illegal in this city. He slipped his forefinger into the rings of the twin karambits. He pulled the two short knives free, but held them together in his left hand, as if they were one thick blade, points down and edges forward in what knifers called the ice-pick grip. The karambits were claw-shaped single-edge weapons whose curved inner edges were only about the length of his crooked little finger. The other end of the all-steel knife bore a ring that would allow it to be worn like a brass knuckle. It was a slashing weapon, rather than a stabbing one, though the thick and heavy ring also allowed striking. Like Harnett's blade, these were layered pattern-weld steel, done by a local artisan named Shiva, and had not been cheap. You never stinted on your weapons. You always bought the best you could afford. He had been practicing with these every day for the last year or so, and he was quite comfortable with the little knives. Held the way he had them, the two should, from Harnett's viewpoint, look like one. Harnett grinned. In a knife fight, size mattered. His dagger was easily 4 times as long and would cut going and coming. If he had been smart, he would have wondered, why did a fighter like Lazlo Mourn, at least 6 or 8 ranks higher than he was, feel that he needed nothing larger than a little hook blade? If he had been smart, Harnett wouldn't have followed Mourn into this alley. Harnett edged in, but was still more than 3 meters away. He lowered himself slowly into a knife fighter's crouch, blade leading in a saber grip. Mourn turned his body so that he was angled at maybe 50 degrees to Harnett, his left leg forward, his right leg back, feet just under a meter apart. He held the knives low, by his groin, his other hand by his face. Mourn had mostly been on Earth for more than a year, training under a little old man named Sitarko, who was a master of one of the Penchak-Silat variants called Chintak. Silat was a weapons-based system, which meant that the unarmed moves were derived from those with blades, and not the other way around. Mourn had been pretty quiet while he trained, only a few challenges, most of those off-world, and the ones he'd fought here had been unarmed. The way the Flex ranking system worked, as long as he was minimally active and he didn't lose, he wouldn't drop off the map. Harnett wasn't local. He might not know about the blades and the system that taught their use. Silat wasn't Mourn's only art, of course. He had trained in others, from Taras Kasi, steel hands, to combat Changa, grappling, to the bone break system of Mamivu Matunda, the fruit of pain. He was still in pretty good condition at a hair over 45 years, TS, but he wasn't getting any younger. You could count the number of top-rated Flex players past his age on your fingers, with one left over to scratch your nose. He had considered retiring. He could open a school. Lots of players would seek him out to see if they could learn what had kept him alive for 25 years against some of the best in the galaxy. Once he had been full of fire, striving to reach the top of the Flex. Now, the game was week-old bread. You could still eat it, but it was dry and hard.